Hello everyone, my name is John Bussart. I'm an HPE Business Transformation Center engineer for Ingram Micro. I help support servers, blade systems, storage, as well as networking technology solutions from HPE. In my videos, what I like to do is show you a slide from a popular PowerPoint and then demonstrate to you what that means within a management interface. Today we're going to continue on our discussion with HPE's Proliant Gen 10 technologies, and in particular we're going to be looking at Intel Optane NVMe drives. So certainly SSD drives have had a significant impact as far as performance within our environment, but typically they get connected up to a SATA or a SAS bus inside a server. And that tends to be the limiting factor as far as performance is concerned within this environment. So it's time for a new bus inside our solutions, and certainly HPE Gen 10 and solutions have this technology within an NVMe bus that you can put within this environment. And then you can install Intel Optane NVMe drives, and the performance impact is pretty significant. Now, there are two different ways you can use these drives. You can use them as raw-based drives, or get raw-based performance out of these drives, or you can use them as a caching tier for your solutions and augment performance of slower drives. And basically what that is you take faster drives and slower drives and group them together to make a one logical volume, and then software on an ongoing basis decides where to put hot blocks of data and cold blocks of data. So if something's accessed frequently, you'd put it on the faster drives, and if something's accessed not so frequently, you put that on the slower drives. And on an ongoing basis, the software will manage that performance. Now, Intel offers a cache acceleration software, Intel Cache software, that comes for free when you buy Intel drives. But there are other solutions that are out there, and I would say one of the solutions that are out there is VMware's vSAN. There's certainly a caching tier that you have to set up within this, and Intel's Optane NVMe drives would be a great solution for that technology as well. So with all that being said, let's explore this performance within the solution. Okay, here's my Windows 2019 instance. So to get a little bit of understanding of the drives that I have installed in this, because I want you to get an understanding of the performance across different drives. I'm going to open up Drive Manager here, and we can see the drives. So this drive here, as well as this drive, are both Intel Optane NVMe drives. I have one as raw performance, and the other one I have formatted out as this E drive here. So basically we're going to do benchmarking off this drive, and then this drive here I'm going to do as a caching tier for storage, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But I also have a couple SSD drives in a mirrored set. I have a couple SAS 10K drives in a mirrored set as well, and I obviously have my operating system on this, and that's what I'm booting off of. But I have a little bit of space that we could look at, we can do a little benchmarking off of. And finally, I have a little bit older nimble storage system. So certainly this storage system is capable of high performance, but I have this volume in particular capped at 10K IOPS. And again, we're going to use the cache acceleration software to kind of augment the performance on this. Okay, so we can look at this inside the system. This is how the drive looks. So again, we see this E drive. There's our SSD drives, SAS drives, as well as the nimble storage. Now, the tool that I like to use for benchmarking, and obviously I use a variety of them, but the tool that I like to use is Iometer or Iometer, depends on how you want to say it. I like it because you can do a variety of things against your storage with it. There is obviously a lot more solutions that are out there to be able to benchmark, but this is the one I happen to use. To get your head wrapped around this, obviously I don't want to make you an Iometer expert, but I want to give you a little bit of understanding so there's no smoke and mirrors or anything with what I'm doing. Obviously with benchmarking tools, you can skew them to kind of get the type of performance that you want in your environment. So I want it to be straightforward. And I'd be less worried about the numbers that you get out of this, or in our case we'll be looking at IOPS, and I'd be more interested in the dramatic differences between the performance across different drives. So over here, this is representative of our server itself. And if I expand this out, you're going to see a bunch of workers, and I have 56 workers here. And basically, one automatically gets created for each thread within inside your system. So every core on your processor is times 2. All right, so I have 56 workers, and these workers are going to be doing about 100 outstanding IOs against the storage that I select. All right, we're going to start off with SAS drives. Now, I have to come at the storage in a certain way. Is it read? Is it write? Is it sequential? Is it random? And we do that under access specification. I have this one here. And so we can look at it. We can go select it down here before it's been added, and then we can edit it. And you'll see that I'm doing 80% sequential and 20% random. I'm also doing 20% write and 80% read. So I'd say this is a little storage friendly, but this is just a consistent workload we're going to be running across these different drives. Okay. And then I'll keep our information here in Notepad so we can look at the different things. And the first one we're going to do is SAS drives. So I'm going to take and click this little green flag up here. Let's start this up and save our results. And we'll click over here. Okay. And now there's a bunch of great numbers that we could look at. We're going to focus in on this top number because that's really IOPS. But obviously throughput's good as well as latency. Our numbers that people are interested in as well. And we can see that we've got a high amount of latency and a low amount of throughput. All right, but these are the drives that our customers have been using for a long period of time, or we have been using in our environment for a long period of time, and we've been happy with them. And these are the IOPS we generally get. So let me click stop on this. Obviously, with a benchmarking tool, you probably want to let it run for a little while, but you'll see where I'm going with this. All right, so I'm getting about, with this, I'm getting about, so we're getting about 1.3K IOPS out of that guy. All right, so that'd be a SAS drive, and again, that's what we've been used to. So what are we getting out of SSD drives? So let's go back over to our target, and let's select SSD. Now let's fire this back up, and then we'll click save. And you see we're an order of magnitudes larger. I guess it kind of looks the same, but there's an extra a place over here. So what we're getting out of this solution is, let's stop it so we can get a stable number, is we're getting, let's see, 12.3K IOPS out of this, right? And I suppose that anybody who's ever had a desktop or a laptop and you've went from a spinning disk to an SSD disk, the notice of performance increase is you can see that right away. It boots up a lot quicker, and this is one of the reasons why people have moved to SSD drives, right? Because we're over 10 times faster as far as this solution is concerned. Right, but when we start looking at business critical applications for our environment, some of them require even more performance than what SSD drives can offer. All right, so let's look at Optane NVMe drives. All right, so we'll go back over to our disks, and we'll select our Intel Optane drive. And we'll fire this back up. And we'll click save. You can see we're an order of magnitudes faster, even compared to SSD drives. All right, so we're going to click stop over here. And we'll kind of write our little ad hoc record keeping. So we can see this is what we've been living with. I'd be willing to bet a lot of us have this type of solution floating around in our environment still, but we're trying to move to SSD drive, which is an order of magnitude faster. But when you look at Intel Optane NVMe, the performance is just as mind-blowing as when we move to SSD drives, right? It's much larger. And again, we can use this as raw drive performance within our environment, right? But we could also use this as a cache acceleration tier inside our environment. We can make these slower drives a little bit faster. So what I'm going to show you now is Intel cache software, or cache acceleration software. And that's right here. Again, that comes for free with your Intel drives. And it's going to be used in conjunction with slower drives in order to be able to augment the performance inside our environment. So I'm going to go back to our benchmarking tool. We're going to go back to the SAS drive. All right, we're going to go over here into the software and we're going to add a drive list. Now you can add all the drives. I'm going to do them individually. And again, first we're going to add our SAS drives. And this is going to take this drive, and this is the other Intel Optane NVMe drive that I did not have formatted out. Right, they're both right here. And I'm going to use that drive as a cache acceleration for the SAS drive. Now there are different cache modes that you can choose from. I'm using write back, which means that the write gets acknowledged before it gets moved over to slower based storage. I think that's important that people know that, but there are definitely different modes that you can use if you wanted to. So we're going to do it against our G drive, which is our SAS drive. So let's start the cache. It'll take a little bit to start. All right, so our cache is started. Let's go over to our benchmarking tool and we'll fire this guy back up. And we'll take a look at our results. Now, what I find is that when you use caching technologies like this, it takes a little bit of time for the storage to bake. So we're seeing a little bit of improvements, but I would say that within an hour or so, you should see the maximum you should be able to get out of this type of tiering type of solution. I don't think it's going to take as long inside our environment, but it does take a little bit. I've kind of got a number I know this is going to round out to, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pause this and we're going to come back in a little bit of time. We'll take a look at this. If you want an accurate representation of time, you're going to look down here and then compare that to what we kind of come back in. But again, we're going to kind of pause this and we're going to look at the performance of how this is running in a little bit. Okay, so we've let this bake for a little while, and you can see that our numbers are showing pretty good. All right, so let's stop this right now so we can get a consistent number. So we took our SAS drives from being 1.3 KIOPS to about 44.7 KIOPS. So that's a significant difference as far as performance by just using a little bit of drives. And the general rule of thumb is if you look at your total storage, if you have 10 or 20% of that in a faster tier storage, you'll get most of the performance that you're going to get out of the solution. I mean, you can see that that's had a dramatic impact. So let's stop this cache. Now it's going to take a little bit for this to flush on out. All right, our cache has flushed out over here. So now we're ready to kind of work with this again. So let's go over and let's take a look at the performance on our SSD drives with this software. Again, we'll remove that. We'll go in and we'll add our SSD drives. And we'll click apply. And then we'll start this up and it'll take a little bit. All right, so we can see our cache state is started. All right, and let's again fire up our benchmarking program. We'll save the results. And we can already see some benefits. This will take a little bit of time to bake, so why don't we let it bake and then we'll come back again. Okay, our number is kind of converging here. We've let this maybe bake long enough. I might get a little bit more performance if I let this go a little bit longer, but we can see that even when we use this with SSD drives, we can get a significant boost in performance. So again, we went from about 12.3 KIOPS and now we're about at a 45.0 KIOPS as far as that's concerned. So pretty significant performance boost. Whether you're using SAS drives or SSD drives, you can achieve some nice numbers out of this. The other place we're going to look at is we're going to look at SAN storage. So I had a nimble storage system as well. So let me stop this cache. All right, it's going to take a little bit to flush this out. Okay, our cache has been flushed out over here. All right, let's go take a look and go over here. We're going to move this drive. Now, before I kind of fire this up, let's go take a look at what this drive can do. So if you remember, I have this nimble storage system. It's shared storage, but I have this volume capped at 10 KIOPS. So let's just prove that to ourselves. So let's fire this up. Let's click save. And you can see that we're bouncing around a little bit, but we're getting about 10 KIOPS out of this guy. So if we go over here, we'll do nimble. We're CS3000. Again, we're looking at about 10 Let's stop this guy. Look, oh, what are we getting about here? We're getting about 9.9 Ki ops out of this guy. Right, so that's about what I have it capped at. So now let's add the cache acceleration software to this. So again, this can even be used with shared storage solution, age shared storage solutions. So I'll add that on. We'll start our cache. We'll wait for it to start. All right, our cache is started up. So let's go on over to our benchmarking program. Again, we're on the Nimble storage system. We'll fire this up and we'll click save. You can see we're already getting some benefit, but again, we're going to need to let this bake in order to be able to achieve the full benefit out of this. So again, pay attention to the time. So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. Okay, this solution is converging on a number as well. We might get a little bit more if I let it bake for a little bit longer, but let's just stop and take a look at what we're getting. So we're getting about 42.5 Ki ops out of this. So we kind of see a consistent pattern that's kind of happening here, but that's pretty significant as far as performance across all these different storage solutions in there. So a little bit of Intel Optane NVMe drives can go a long way for solutions. Even if they exist currently on site, you need to get a little bit of performance. This might be a good way to be able to augment that performance within your environment. So this is a great solution. So certainly the limiting factor as far as our storage is concerned today is the SAS or the SATA bus, and moving to solutions that are based on NVMe are really going to enhance performance within our environment. So I hope you found this video informative, and please stay tuned for more videos.